Welcome to the Weekly Remind, brought to you by the Grim Media. We are the media for the missing. I'm your host, Steve Stone. We have a lot to get into today, so let's get started. The topic of our show is the anatomy of a missing persons case. I have two guests with me, both advocates in their own right, who have fought to look for their loved one, but also advocate for others as well. My first interview was with Scarlett Campbell. She is a relative of Will Polk, and there has recently been an update in her case, which we will get into on a special episode of the Grim Truth Podcast tomorrow. In the meantime, let's dive into my interview with Scarlett.
Into the world of the missing by having a family member go missing over a year and a half ago. Scarlett, it's great to have you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
My first question to you is, you have the unfortunate job of being thrust into it, being the advocate and the crusader to find Will Polk. As a family member leading that fight, tell me, what was it like in the beginning when you were starting out and trying to get Will Polk found?
It was absolutely horrific. It was so heartbreaking. The cards are stacked against you from the beginning because with an adult missing person, a local department does not immediately, like you think they should, accept the fact that that person is missing. They automatically jump to the assumption that it is a grown adult that chose not to be present wherever they're at, and that is the most discerning part of everything, is pleading and begging with law enforcement to actually take your missing persons case seriously and know that they are indeed missing and not just, joyriding or decided to leave the state for one reason or another.
And there's no playbook or guide when looking for a missing person, obviously. Can you explain what the steps that you took initially on the mission to locate Will?
Well, the first part of the journey was absolutely positively kicking the stalls every day. Trying to get someone to hear me, trying to get someone to understand that our family member didn't just decide to leave. That was absolutely the first journey. When I realized I wasn't getting anywhere with that, through other advocates, friends that have been through it already, friends of murder victims, telling me, Scarlett, you've got to get on social media. Now, Scarlett's not a social media person. I'm an introvert, and so just the prospect of that scared me morbid. But again, there's no lengths that I would not go to get the word out. And so I thought, I have nothing to lose. The sheriff's department's not listening to me. Local authorities won't hear me. Somebody has to hear me. Somebody has to hear me. And if this is the only way I can make it happen, then that's what I have to do. And that's when I created Will's page, which was the first step. You've got to create that person a social media page, via Facebook, however you can get it out there, Twitter, do Twitter storms, whatever you need to do to get it out there. You've got to start with that, because people that did not know your family member or had never met them, never seen them, they're not going to know who they're looking for. They're not going to know that they're missing. They're not going to know anything about that person unless you get out there and leave your digital footprint and let people know, loved ones and strangers alike, this person that I love is gone. Y'all, please help us if you've heard anything, seen anything, whatever. And, you reach so many people, so many more people digitally than you do hanging flyers. Now that is important. Hanging flyers is an important part. That gets the attention of local people. However, you want it to step outside of that town that person went missing in, because people outside of town, they give you, if nothing else, they give you the notoriety and the voice to be heard by the local authorities. If enough people kick the stalls, if enough people voice your missing loved one's voice, they cannot ignore you forever.
You think it puts some kind, not in a negative way, but it brings attention and puts pressure on law enforcement to begin looking for your loved one?
It absolutely builds a fire under them, simply because they do not want to be seen in a negative light in the media. And I have worked in law enforcement myself. Nobody that works in law enforcement wants to be seen in a negative light, and that's absolutely not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is make people understand, not just with our local, county, but any town, any county, the mere fact that people have gotten, especially law enforcement, have gotten way too comfortable with the fact that somebody that's an adult cannot possibly go missing because they're adults is absolutely insane. Adults go missing as well as children, and when you have a family member in your face screaming that, actually screaming that on their knees, crying, begging for you to help them do something, there has to be truth in that, and you have to make them understand that.
How important is it for a family member to liaison with law enforcement, making sure that the right things are being done in the case? And to go a step further, a lot of times law enforcement looks at their professional playbook. Well, like you stated earlier, they're an adult, they have the right to go missing, or they must have just decided, they wanted to live elsewhere. How do you get them to the communication back and forth and get them to listen to how the families feel? Because the family knows better. How do you get them to do that?
I really don't have a good answer for that, because I took every avenue possible. The absolute best way was when I got media attention to the fact that Will was missing. But that came after many, many days of begging, pleading, crying, sitting on doorsteps, phone call after phone call after phone call. You absolutely positively have to be heard, and the best way to do that and get results is through social media.
Would it be safe to say that you are not a person, and having spoken with you, I know you're not a person that doesn't take no for an answer, especially when it came to Will. Would it be safe to say that families need to kind of take that direction, because the only way that they're going to get through and try to get the right people going in the right direction is by just simply, and as of course it has to be very delicate, and you don't want the law enforcement relationship to sour. You want it to be sort of like a teamwork area, but not taking no for an answer. Is that safe to say?
See, here's the deal. You absolutely cannot take no for an answer, because no is a whole lot easier to say than yes. Always has been, always will be. It's a fact of life. With that being said, you also run into other hurdles. It's sad to say that these days there's so much corruption in the world that law enforcement, they're not exempt from that. There's corruption in many law enforcement agencies. You have to have the mindset that not only are you putting your loved one's life in their hands, just like when they're a baby, you have to stand over them and make sure that they take care of them, because there absolutely are there absolutely are people out there that are filled with hate and with malice, and you have to protect your loved one from that. And I'm just gonna wrap that up by saying, be mindful of anybody that you give your loved one's information to. Know who you're giving it to, and watch every move they make with it, because if you don't, it can be mishandled.
I agree with that. I also think, too, going back to social media, I've talked to people that say, well, I don't know how to make a video, or I don't look good on camera, or, maybe they don't have the confidence. What do you say to those people that, I don't have a problem getting on camera and making a video, but what do you say to those people that maybe they don't feel confident enough that they can speak for their family member?
Here's what I've got to say about that. There is something inside your body as a human being that kicks in when you have a missing family member. It's kind of like, if you have a child and when they were little, they disappeared out of your eyesight for 10 minutes, and you find them in the kitchen cabinet under the sink, curled up in a ball of sleep, and you've been looking for them for 15 minutes, screaming, crying, running, checking under everything, checking everywhere, the yard, the bathroom, the house. It's something. It's something in your makeup as a human being that kicks in, that gives you the strength to do what you need to do. And if at any point you don't have that strength, reach out to somebody, anybody. I guarantee you, for as much as you're an introvert and are intimidated by camera, by recordings, by social media, there is somebody somewhere, whether it be in your family, whether it be friends, whether it be strangers. Steve, I can't tell you how much help I've gotten from strangers that just genuinely cared and wanted to help me. Reach out, people. Reach out. Somebody will help you. Somebody absolutely, positively, anytime, day or night, is there that can help you, that can speak for you, that can make you comfortable enough within yourself for you to speak for yourself and for you to speak for your loved one. Somebody's there.
Scarlett Campbell, thank you so much. I think you're a powerhouse. I know that, again, this wasn't something that you wanted to do. It was something you were thrust into, and I think your advice in the trial and error that you went through will be something that can help people down the road, and I think it's great advice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve, so much. And if I can just reiterate, do not give up. Don't give up.
Thank you.
I want to thank Scarlett again for coming on the program. Definitely great insight from her. Next up is going to be Karen Knuckles Phillips. She is a good friend of mine, also an advocate for Christopher Sanders. She has wonderful insight and some great advice. So here now is my interview with Karen Knuckles Phillips.
You were thrust into the world of the missing when your best friend Chris Sanders, he went missing back in August 13th, 2017. You've since taken an advocacy role, not just for Chris, but for others. In your own words, can you tell me how a missing persons case should go, and what are some of the misconceptions of missing persons cases?
The biggest misconception is that there's a 48, 24, 72-hour waiting period to file a missing person report. That's total nonsense. There is no waiting period. Federal law says the minute that you feel like someone's missing, that you can file the report. The problem with that is there are no state laws regulating it, and you have to go through whatever agency you're dealing with, their procedure. So here's what happens. If if the person went missing, what is the truth is, you either have to file it in the county where they lived or the place where they went missing. You don't even have to go to those places to do it. You can do it over the phone. People don't understand that. They think they have to go there. That's not true. You can do it over the phone.
What, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If you get them on the phone, or if you go there and they say, oh, no, you got to wait, then you just start working your way up the chain of command. You say, no, I want to file this, there's something wrong. Because who knows your loved one better than you?
Exactly. What do you think the disconnect is with some law enforcement agencies and the missing?
Okay, there's a few things I think, or I don't think, I know what I've seen, helping people, because I've helped people in different states, different counties. What I think the disconnect is, one thing is, if there's drug abuse or mental illness involved ever, like if they've ever had a history of any of that, then they just think, oh, they'll be back. Second, I don't know if it's a lack of wanting to do the paperwork, I don't know. But third, a lot of times you get agencies that haven't had to deal with it, so they don't really know what the proper procedure is. I've had law enforcement people who didn't even know what NamUs was. I think that a constant education, and I'm not saying law enforcement's not constantly having education courses, because they are, but like every agency has their own method, and when you get there, this is my advice too, because I don't want to sound like I'm bashing law, because I'm not. We have law enforcement people that really care and want to help, and they get real busy with it. So my advice to families, if when you call law enforcement and you try to get this going, or when you go and you try to get this going and you're not getting anywhere, work your way up the chain of command and don't give up. If you're at a city police department and they're not doing it, then go to the sheriff's. Go to the county sheriff's office. If they're not doing it, then call the county judge. But have you heard the saying, the squeaky wheel gets results?
Yes.
Sometimes you have to be the squeaky wheel. And if it's your missing person, you are going to, throughout, from the beginning of the end to the end of that case, be the squeaky wheel. Nobody is going to fight as hard for your loved one as you have to.
Do you believe social media platforms help missing persons cases?
Well, let me put it to you like this. How often do you see them on say Facebook? How often do you see a missing person case on Facebook? Versus how often do you hear about them on the news?
I see them more on Facebook than I do in the media. Yeah.
That's where they start. The news media starts from Facebook. I mean, here's the thing. If your child goes missing, aren't you going to reach out to every single resource you can possibly find? And what families find is they don't have a whole lot of options. They start with social media because that's where they start seeing people care.
Right. I think that the news media doesn't care enough because it has to fit a certain it has to fit a certain stereotype for them to blast it all over the media. Whereas social media, you'll find complete strangers that want to help as opposed to the media.
And even when you get news media that do care, they have people they have to answer to. Every part of it, there's somebody that those people have to answer to.
Right.
And a lot of times family are even leery about filing a missing person report because they don't want to be embarrassed if the person just shows up. But what happens is when you don't do that, you lose valuable time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'd rather be a little bit embarrassed. I wouldn't even be embarrassed at this point, but I'd rather say, here's the thing: at the worst, if you file it and then it's some simple explanation, then you've got a funny story to tell at Thanksgiving,
Right, exactly.
And versus if you don't and time's missed,
There are a lot of missing person groups out there, especially on Facebook. How do you think a family best will be able to manage their group so that it stays on point and it's actually a benefit to the family and doesn't get out of control?
I think families need to be in control of any missing person page about their loved one, and there needs to be one. Okay, like say your missing person is Becky Sue Owens. I'm making up a name. If there's a Becky Sue Owens out there missing, I'm not referring to you. But I'm making up a name. Okay, you don't want 14 pages about her because tips get lost in the process, wrong information gets put out there. People will say, oh, she's been found, even though they don't have any clue that this person's been found. So that's why I say it's better if you, my advice is this is the routine. Your person's missing. You file the missing person report first. You find an advocate that's legit. And then let that advocate work with you to set up a page, get you admins to help monitor that page. And those admins, generally, like my admins, they'll watch to make sure there's no other pages and things up. They'll watch, they'll look for their people. Because if there's 8 pages for that one person, what gets put on one page may not get put on the other, and then it gets lost in the cracks.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And so it's better if you have one page that we won't put up a Facebook page without a family member requesting it. The Missing East Texas 8 will not put up a Facebook page for a missing person without a family member requesting it and being an admin on there. Because it needs to be, a family member needs to be in control of that. Because they know what things they want the public to know, what things they don't want out in the public. Because you can't tell the public every part of your case or you're never going to find your person.
Right.
Because, okay, if something has happened to your loved one that's foul play, you don't think the people that did it are not watching?
Oh, of course they are, yeah. And that's a good segue to my final question. You have a group called the Missing East Texas 8 and Beyond, which helps people in your region, in the area of Texas, and you've also helped others outside of the state. What do you say to people that are struggling with their loved one's case and they're looking for help? They're looking for an advocacy group similar to yours. What would you say to them?
I say call me. And if you're in another state, what I do is if it's a case in another state, I start searching for an advocate in that state. Even if you're in another town in my state, I'll give you an example. Like, we've had some cases in San Antonio. Well, as you become an advocate, you learn to make contacts with people. You learn this person really cares, this person will get on that ground, and so you reach out to those people for the families and connect them. That's part of being an advocate, connect the people. It doesn't matter who does it, as long as it gets done, right?
Right.
So, I'm saying call me, because I know what we'll do. But call somebody and get started, and if they're not in your state or in your town, hopefully if they're doing what they're doing to help you find your loved one, they'll find somebody there. And, an advocate's job is to connect search and rescue teams together, media together. I have different reporters that have reached out to me, and when cases come up, I shoot it to them because I know how important those media stories are to these families. So advocates' jobs are to help and not, help the families the best you can, get the word out. Getting that word out is the number one thing because, we've had a case where the guy didn't even know he was missing.
Oh.
And by that, I mean he didn't know anybody was looking for him. So we helped this family, and it was out of jail. We put the flyers out. The page was only up a few weeks, and somebody said, hey, man, you're on this flyer. He contacted his family. He said, I just didn't know y'all were looking for me. I just needed a simple life. And now they're connected,
Right.
So because a person's missing doesn't mean something horrible's happened to them. It doesn't mean it hasn't. But the only way to find out is to get the word out and see if anyone's seen them so they can call in. And if you've seen someone that you think is a missing person, my advice to you is to contact your local law enforcement and try to find that family. Google Google up those names. You know, go to your Facebook search, type in the name of the person on the flyer, and then find the people that are constantly sharing it. Let them know. You know, don't give up. Don't think, well, I called law enforcement, because we've had people that have called in on Chris's case, and certain law enforcement agencies said, we don't have this case, but yet they do. You know, so they're like, well, they're saying they don't have that case. And that's happened several times. I'm using Chris's case for an example. That's happened several times on his case. So I'm saying, if you think you've seen him in person, call. And another thing I'd like to say is if you're on social media, don't say this person's been found unless you're definitely sure, because that's one of the worst things that can happen. Have somebody say, oh, they've been found.
Yeah, because that'll spread like wildfire, and then in fact they haven't been found, and that creates a lot of confusion.
And it basically makes that family have to start all over again. So it's important that whatever information you put out is true and accurate. If you're not sure, research it before you put it out there. You know, and a lot of times I think families get judged, and so they're slower to put it out there. Don't worry about what people say. You know, they talked about Jesus. Let them talk. Do what you got to do to find your loved one, because if you don't fight for them, nobody will.
Great advice. Karen, thank you so much for talking with me.
Okay, it's good talking to you. Keep doing what you're doing, Steve.
I want to thank Karen for joining us today. Once again, very insightful, and I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people. If you have the need to start a Facebook page for your loved one, I urge you to get a hold of Karen. You can search the Missing East Texas 8 and Beyond on Facebook. You can email the group at missingeasttexas8 and beyond at gmail.com. Or if you need to, you can get in touch with me, Steve Stone at thegrimtruth.com. Or you can text message me on Facebook. Just type in at The Grim Truth, and I will be happy to help you out. Again, I want to thank Karen. As we move along, there was a small update this week in the case of Kaylene Oehling, who went missing from Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, January the 10th, 2020. We covered Kaylene's case in episode 7. Kaylene's former boyfriend and person of interest in the case, Michael Mano, was arrested later, I believe last week or towards the weekend, on 3 felony charges and 1 misdemeanor charge. They include dissemination of minor, unlawful contact with a minor, criminal use of communication facility, and the misdemeanor is corruption of a minor. So what does this mean? Let's break it down. This is a sick individual who was sending nude photos of Kaylene to her younger sister, who is a minor. This is just the latest in odd and criminal behavior by this depraved man, which he's in jail now where he belongs, in a cage. I'm not sure if he's talking with detectives now about Kaylene's disappearance. What I do know is he's an animal, and again, he's in a cage where he belongs. I did get word as we were taping this that there's a possibility that there was a bail set at $40,000. I was not able to confirm that, but as of this recording, he was still in jail, which is good. In the meantime, I think everybody in our community and in our group, we need to pray for Kaylene and the family right now, in the hopes that this is a step in the right direction. If anyone has any information on the whereabouts of Kaylene, please contact the Allegheny County Homicide Unit at 412-473-3000. Again, that's 412-473-3000. Our next story takes us to Moynihan, Texas, and the missing person case of Christopher Sanders. A news story was done on Chris, which is long overdue, and I want to thank ABC Big 2 News for doing the story on Chris. I've covered Chris twice, episode 1 and episode 8 of the podcast. If you haven't listened to those episodes, I urge you to go ahead and do that now. Excuse me. I cannot play the video at this time because I don't want to get a copyright strike from YouTube, but I just want to break it down for you. Monaghan's PD, Captain Quintana, was being interviewed with, and with all due respect to Captain Quintana, sir, I got to call you out on some things. We have to correct the record. Your department has not interviewed some key people about Chris's disappearance. You spoke to some neighbors after doing a, quote, welfare check. You've taken the position that you've assumed that Chris just decided to go for a walk up and leave. A native Texan with high blood pressure is not going to walk smack dab in the heat of the summer in August in Texas and just leave. Just not going to happen. And so I have to call you out. Another point, to date, you have not interviewed Chris's wife, Angela, nor have you spoken to Cody Penny, Chris's relative. Also just happens to be the last person who spoke to Chris before Chris took his quote-unquote walk. When people have called about Chris's case to Moynihan's PD, they have said repeatedly, and Captain Quintana has stated in the past that this is the Texas Rangers case. So the buck's been passed. So when you go on camera with your uniform on and your sunglasses and you say that you're not going to close the case till Chris is found, with all due respect again, sir, you're not going to find Chris and you're not going to close the case until you start investigating. He went missing in 2017. Here we are in 2021. Not one credible search has been done. Not even a legit investigation has been done, and time has eroded. This case has gone on 4 years, and everybody has scattered to the four winds, along with possible evidence and other things. This is a travesty, and if you are a law enforcement professional, it's time to do your job. You need to investigate this case, help this family. They deserve the answers. They deserved them 4 years ago, and they still deserve them. Finally, I'm going to call out Cody Penny. Cody holds the key to information on Chris. I believe, Cody, you can tell us the state of mind Chris was in at the time of his disappearance. You hold probably very critical information, and you probably aren't aware of it. I'm asking you please to contact me, Sandy, or Karen so we can discuss it. It's time to bring Chris home. We need some answers, and I am not going to stop until we get them. So, Cody, I urge you to reach out to either, again, Sandy, Karen, or myself. Again, Steve Stone at thegrimtruth.com. You can catch me on Facebook at The Grim Truth. Please message me, and I will be more than happy to speak with you. I want to speak with you. It's important. In another bungling law enforcement disaster, I want to bring attention to an issue regarding Kaylene Knudson's case. I covered Kaylene just a couple episodes ago on the Grim Truth podcast, and I need to bring attention to an issue. Kaylene's family has tried to get in contact with the West Virginia State Police. They have information that needs to be checked out. I spoke to Crystal, who was the girlfriend, fiance of Kaylene, and she has reached out to the West Virginia State Police several times in the past couple of days. She actually went to the trooper barracks to try to get a hold of somebody. There have been zero responses to her calls and requests, and West Virginia State Police needs to be put on notice that there's information on this case and the family needs their help. I'm asking you guys, I'm asking our Grim Truth team, our community, if anybody would like to reach out to the West Virginia State Police on behalf of the family and let them know that some pressure needs to be put on. They need to respond to Crystal, and there is information that could possibly help Kaylene's case, and we need people to kind of put a bug in their ear and let's say, hey, we need you to respond to Crystal. Again, there is information that she has relative to Kaylene's case, and it's I think it's sad that we have to go to these limits and these extremes to get the attention of the police. Again, it doesn't matter what side of the tracks a person was on, whether they did drugs, whether they abused alcohol, whether they were engaged in criminal activity. They're missing. This man has a son who misses him, and we need your help. So again, if you guys can help reach out to the West Virginia State Police, that would be, I'm sorry, we messed that up. Please contact them, 304-799-4104. Again, 304-799-4104. They need help, and we'll be glad to do it. I've reached out to them several times myself, and it's time we get some information. It's time now to conduct our case reminds for this week. First up, we have Cieha Taylor, who went missing on February 6, 2020. We covered her case in episode 5. She was last seen dropping off her boyfriend around 4 p.m. in the Plant City, Florida area. The boyfriend, Jason, who again, they were dating at the time. When we did the episode 5, we tried reaching out to him. We made several attempts. I actually got to speak to him briefly. He agreed to talk to me. He wanted to call me after work. However, that never transpired, and we made several attempts to contact him afterwards, and it seemed like we were blocked, and we weren't able to conduct an interview or speak with him. Now, there are claims, unsubstantiated claims, as far as from me. There have been rumored that there was an abusive relationship between Jason and Cieha, where Jason was abusive, both physically and emotionally. And I would love to set the record straight and get to the truth. I'm offering Jason an invite to contact the Grim Truth Podcast. I can be reached, again, Facebook at The Grim Truth, or you can email me, Steve Stone, at thegrimtruth.com. Again, that's Steve Stone at thegrimtruth.com. I would love to discuss your relationship with Cieha, and let us know what you've been doing to help search for your girlfriend. I think that's important. Again, if anybody watching this has any information on Cieha Taylor, her family misses her. We need help locating her. If you have any information on Cieha, please contact the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, 813-247-8000. Again, 813-247-8000. If you need to, you can remain anonymous. We plan on doing another podcast episode on Cieha's case, so please stay tuned for that. Our final case remind this week is that of Veronica Reyes-Minjares. We covered Veronica's case, episode 3 of the podcast. Veronica's case has had zero movement, and I mean zero. I spoke to Veronica's dad a few days ago. The issue, it seems to be, with Veronica's case that I have, is the fact that there's a camera at the entrance of Veronica's trailer park where they were living at the time with her 3 children and her husband. The early morning hours of January 18th, 2020, she was seen coming home with her 2 older children and put to bed. The camera, I want to be clear on this, the camera caught her coming home with the children, pulling into the park. And she's seen driving her Tahoe. She goes into the park, gets out, puts her kids to bed. This is something that is troubling to me, because Veronica was never seen leaving the trailer park after putting the kids to bed. The entrance never catches her leave, oddly enough. I want to stress that again. It does not record her or show her leaving the trailer park after she returns home. Veronica, again, seen here, she has 3 kids, and she has a mom and a dad that miss her very much. The children miss her. I spoke on the first episode of this show about one of her sons, her older son, looking at her at one of her missing flyers, and it was on a Facebook post. It was very touching, also very sad. So it's time for the truth about Veronica's case to come to light, and I believe that there is one person out there that can help us with that. Or maybe you can help us. Somebody out there watching this now or listening can help us with this. If you have any information, please contact the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office at 813-247-8000. Again, that's 813-247-8000. Let's bring Veronica home. Before we sign off this week, a Mississippi mother and family need your help. Tyquan Smith Sims went missing from Greenwood LaFleur Hospital in the early morning hours of February 15, 2021. He was experiencing a mental health issue at the time when he ran out of the hospital. When he left, he hardly had any clothing on. There was a tremendous winter storm raging. It was very, very cold. I believe it was either 11 or 18 degrees there, and that's pretty cold in Mississippi. As of yesterday, and because we launched a huge video campaign, which I thought was just fantastic, MBI, the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, has issued an endangered child alert, and now we need your help bringing Tyquan home. He's 5'9", 150 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. If you have any information, please contact the LaFleur County Sheriff's Office, 662-453-5141, or contact the Greenwood PD at 662-453-3331. I spoke to Tyquan's mom, and she was elated that this alert was issued. However, it is months upon months late, but again, it has been issued, so that's a positive note in his case. And I want to thank everybody for sharing that video that we did on the Grim Truth Podcast Facebook page, and we shared it to a lot of groups. I mean, it was an outpouring of help from all of you, and that's one of the things I said in a video yesterday, that this is the change that we can enact if we all work together. And this young man has siblings. He has a mother who miss him very, very much, and I'm glad that we were able to assist in making a change, and that our alert was issued. I'm not taking credit for it, again, but we're just happy that we were able to push the envelope a little bit, and MBI was able to get that alert out. So we want to thank them for doing that as well. Tomorrow on the Grim Truth Podcast, we are going to have a special update episode. Will Polk and April Jones case. As we reported last week, an arrest was made. Please make sure you tune in for that on Thursday, the Grim Truth Podcast. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. We will not be discussing any of the criminal liabilities with this case. Again, this is an ongoing investigation, and we don't want to damage the integrity of the investigation, again, as it's still ongoing. And so we will, however, we're going to talk about the break in the case, and how it transpired, and how the families are kind of turning from looking for their missing loved one to justice, and how it all transpired. Finally, on Friday, we will be long overdue. We are going to finally profile the cases of David McAllister and Matthew Petromel on the Grim Truth podcast. And that will be Friday, episode 12. Again, we are iHeart, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, anywhere you get your podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and take a listen. I want to thank my guests, Scarlett Campbell and Karen Knuckles Phillips, for their terrific insight on our Autonomy of a Missing Person case series. I encourage all of you, if you're watching for the first time and you like what you see and you think we're doing a good job, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a like and comment. Don't forget, smash that notification bell so you never miss an episode of the show, videos, or news about the missing. I'm Steve Stone. This has been the Weekly Remind, brought to you by Grim Media. We are the media for the missing. God bless.